This is the decisive moment to take advantage of a great opportunity, totally unique. In this generation, we can take advantage of the moment to create the wealth we want. While the market is down is the opportunity for us to take advantage of fear. Only if we prepare in advance can we reach great riches. This decline from 2022 to 2023 is an unrepeatable moment, and I will really teach you how to play the cards necessary to be on par with the millionaires and also billionaires who will inevitably produce this situation, no matter what capital you have, if it is 0 or 10 million net. Now at this moment, there is the opportunity that if it is invested correctly, we can make the quantum leap to create wealth. In this recession, there are a couple of points to take into account, something that highlights it from anything. Let's understand that these parameters are not being shared in almost any video, and today I come to talk to you about them to prevent you from any lack of what is a recession and who succeeds during one. The word recession is enough to mention it. Hundreds of people lose their money regardless of their age range in these times of heavy falls. And well, who are the beneficiaries of these times of crisis? And how could someone ordinary receive any benefit from all this? From a market that is constantly rising with a large consumer spending to one that is colliding with people and companies reducing expenses and opposing when basic living expenses, such as rent, food, and energy increase, this means that they have less surplus money to spend, because their minimum fixed costs barely arrive unless they cut expenses by moving to a more economical housing area, but still costing money. So instead of have a new piece of clothing, the old one is remade, and the money continues to devalue more and more due to the increase in interest rates. In these times of crisis, it is not recommended to commit to unnecessary expenses, such as getting a new car, home, or paying for a vacation, for now as long as the money is kept slowly until it can circulate again, which affects a general drop in retail trade. Specifically, stop spending money on superfluous things in the short term, because your money could have much more value if you control these expenses in stable and bullish economy. As a high luxury dealership, for example Lamborghini, they observe how their dividends fall, margins contract, and expenses have to decrease. Eventually, mass unemployment occurs. This spreads throughout the economy. As expenses run out and people begin to lose their jobs, everyone's lack of payment begins to occur, and this lack of payments affects car and mortgage loans. Fear spreads like air as everything collapses, with people extremely frightened by the safety of their jobs. Seeing the value of their assets fall and investment portfolios sink, it is catastrophic and estimates are being met, and it is known as they cling to this idea, and the value of their goods fall, but it becomes true to a certain extent. Their real cash flow is not being intervened in any way. It is not even at risk, although in the same way, people decrease their costs and try to save more. For this reason, it is essential to guarantee a good form of money flow. Since that is what will keep you, it is much better to be well insured economically than to have to live at the limit in these times of crisis. Because in case what you have, if it is not very liquid as real estate, it ends up exhausting your reserves abysmally, or even worse, your house becomes lost. Now take this into account, this whole topic, because we will touch on it again later in the video. Let's think together about how the general economic situation compares to your personal situation, and how we can prevent being negatively affected in this coming recession, or we could even be in one at this time. In reality, it is quite easy. In short, the recession is defined by 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, with a collapse of 0.6% in the data of the second quarter published in July. After a fall of 1.6% technically already in the first quarter, we are already in a recession. In fact, countless professionals in the area, such as economists, entrepreneurs, and people from senior executives are, and you are probably tired of hearing generic tips such as saving more, moving to a cheaper place to reduce expenses, and meet additional schedules to have higher income for lower cost. But this video is not to teach you to save, but to learn to generate wealth. Of course, to create wealth, you will have to increase your income, but it goes beyond that. It is about knowing where that money is being directed. So what did people who became millionaires do in times of crisis? In 2008, in the great real estate crisis, and where thousands of companies closed, others took advantage of affordable prices and then boosted those assets to large amounts of money. Knowing these small details of the economy will allow you to boost from a very low base cost, has great income per year, If we start to detail, large companies today did not exist before such crises, and the reality of a recession is that it comes to replace those companies that are not prepared for long decades. A readjustment is made and replenished by companies that do understand the impulse of it involves a fairly high initial cost, unless you know you can afford it. In this space, we talk about businesses based on services or digital, which usually require little initial expenses, and you can literally do it from any device at your disposal. If you are watching this video now, there is no excuse for not being able to access these opportunities. There is never a lack of those people who make excuses and buts to everything. When the truth is that they do not require it, could be presumed that a business that generates constant cash flows is a great way to beat a recession. But it is not the only one. If you start investigating how to cover some need online from where you live, you can also get a great advantage. It's all about getting to work, and you'll see that if you continue to follow me, you will be able to experience quite noticeable changes in your personal economy. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so to continue learning about these topics. How is it advisable to invest in these times? A great way to invest, and even more so if you already have special capital to allocate to investments, is that you can place it in a strategic portfolio of investments. Investing is not just about taking advantage of strong falling moments and waiting for them to rise. Let's understand what phase of the recession we are in, and we can act effectively. I would say that we are still in the early stages, just the beginning. The market has not yet seen any strong fall apart from a couple of points below the average with respect to GDP. There have not yet been massive layoffs or large companies collapse, however. We have seen markets, such as cryptocurrencies and NFTs, in decline after a high rise. All this is part of signals they can stop producing. Regardless of the falls that occur, there will always be money for the basics such as toothpaste or toilet paper. Fast food chain companies are the best to invest in these times, since it is impossible to refuse the convenience of eating a $2 hamburger. These companies tend to maintain their value and generally continue to grow even when the crisis does. Focus on what people need constantly, instead of what they need during a recession. What need can be covered that is not being covered at the moment? Don't just focus on consumer needs, also think about how you can relate between companies that need solutions and cover all existing commercial space. It is time to create big profits. There are also opportunities in utility companies, although we understand that this recession is different. As we face a digital shock, we understand that public companies related to energy could be of great momentum, although as the recession is yielding, these companies are left behind. I personally would avoid them at this time. In 2023, I would maintain close surveillance. Thanks, and subscribe for more content.